Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to order. Start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Okay.
States of America. And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. So, if any member of the public would like to comment on an agenda item, please fill out one of the blue comment cards located in the lobby. Give it to Tanya, the board secretary, in the back. Let's see, if you're attending virtually through Zoom, place comments in the chat and the board secretary will call on you at the appropriate time. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per individual. Current policy allows for any item on the agenda to be open for comment. Please remember to state your name, so Tanya, when she goes back through for the meeting minutes, and tell who we are. And let's do 2.0. Superintendent Sweeney, are there any written communications?
No.
Let's, are there any questions or comments on 2.0? Okay. So moving on to 3.0. All items on the consent agenda can be approved by a single motion unless a member of the board or superintendent requests an item to be changed, removed, or voted on separately. Are there any changes or additions to the board agenda? White craft. Okay.
I motion to accept the consent agenda. This is Scott.
Brownell second.
Okay. Having motion and seconded, can we get a roll call vote, Tanya?
Member Johnson.
Yes.
Member Bills.
Yes.
Yes.
Richardson.
Yes.
Member Brownell.
Yes.
Member Coleman.
Yes.
Member Wilkins.
Yes. Okay, 4.0 report. We have Assistant Principal Napier and John Kellogg.
Hello there. So we are going to do a short presentation on a new program that we have purchased called Turn It In. I have with me John Kellogg, who is one of our English teachers and was someone that kind of brought this idea to the forefront. So he'll talk a little bit about how he uses it in classroom and the purpose. And then Hannah Cronin is the second. She's actually running our Bridges PM, and so she couldn't be here. So I'll share how she uses it in her classroom, and then we'll open it up for questions. So I will turn it over to John first.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen. My name is John Kellogg. I'm an English leadership teacher here at the high school. One of the biggest reasons why I think Turn It In is absolutely helping our students. I want to focus first on my seniors. They wrote a research paper this year. One of the biggest skills that we try and get seniors to do in the way research papers is to not only come up with their own ideas, but to find supporting evidence online in MLA formats so that way they can bolt through their own ideas. And turnitin.com has been an amazing tool inside of this writing process because students make sure that they are taking their own ideas and phrasing them in their own voice. Turnitin lets them know, for instance, if they find a source online and they take information from that source, it lets them know how much is too much information. So when are they going past that line to where it's plagiarism and no longer just their own voice and information and just taking things from online. And Turnitin is kind of a tool inside of that writing process that lets them know, when am I going too far? When am I taking too much information that's online and not synthesizing using my own information and my own voice? And so especially with my seniors, it's been a wonderful tool because it lets them see how much information are they actually coming up with, how much do they need for support, and it really helps them kind of get that perfect amount of puzzle pieces together in kind of a sandwich so that way they know that they're getting enough information. In addition, while the seniors kind of using it for research papers, my freshmen have been writing 9th grade themes. So we've been reading a lot of short stories at the beginning of the year where they have to come up with what is the overall lesson from these stories. And a lot of the times freshmen are so worried with getting the right answer that they don't always really think about, am I putting this in my own voice? And so I've been able to use turnitin.com with their theme paragraphs. And sometimes where freshmen might do cliche statements like, don't judge a book by its cover for an overall lesson, they're able to see on turnitin.com, if they use a theme like this, it actually flags it saying, hey, that's a very cliche phrase, let's try and put this in our own voice. And so inside of the writing process, it lets students know, okay, how can I rephrase this, put it in my own words? And it really helps with that critical thinking skills to make it so that way they're coming up with their own writing, helps them become better writers. And especially with my freshmen, I've seen a real big turnaround when it comes to coming up with their own ideas, phrasing them in their own way, and getting their own voice early. The sooner we can get freshmen to find their own voice in their writing, the better writers they're going to be when they're sophomores, juniors, and seniors, and the better writers they'll be when they eventually graduate. So it's been a really great writing tool. One last thing I have right here, this is actually from turnitin.com. So up on the top, I had 2 students work together and they submitted an identical theme. So it gave them a 100% identical rate, saying basically, hey, warning, like you've written something that's exactly the same as another student. And so I was able to have them go back and rephrase that theme in a way that it was out of thousands of students that have submitted a theme perfectly identical, showing that the students are finding their voice. And so I definitely think Turnitin is an amazing tool, and it's something that I really hope that our district continues to use in the future.
As the administrator who usually talks to the kiddos that a teacher says, hey, they plagiarized this piece of work, have a conversation. What I used to have to do is I would go through and I would highlight the website that the teacher provided for me and then highlight the students' work so they could really see side by side, like, oh no, I for reals like copied that word for word from the site, or I changed a couple words so I thought it was okay. So the fact that those type of educational moments can happen in the classroom as these kids submit to Canvas, the Turnitin program will automatically run it. And so the kids can see right away, oh, I didn't put enough of my own words in there. I didn't cite this the right way. This isn't done the right way. And so it's really been helpful. I don't think I've seen a plagiarism case, knock on wood, come through yet this year, because our English teachers have been able to use this tool to educate our kids. So it's not a gotcha. It's a, hey, let's teach you how to be better writers. And this tool is super helpful. I know that a lot of universities are also using Turnitin. And so that's been, for our kids that are college bound, it's going to help them know how to use it already. Hannah Cronin teaches 9th grade essentials, regular 9th graders, and then 10th graders. And so for her, the writing process, she uses it every time the kids turn in a writing assignment. It helps them with citations, so making sure that they're quoting things the correct way and it's written the right way with credit being given. It lets them analyze whether is too much of my essay quotes, whether from a source or a book, or is enough of it in my own words. So it allows them to see that balance that they should see as writers. When a kid submits and they get that feedback, then they're able to problem solve their own writing independently, which is helpful, teaches them how to fix their issues. There's also a grammar feature that Hannah uses quite a bit, and I'll show you a picture of that in a minute, but it will kind of like spell check. It will do a grammar check, and it doesn't provide the kids with, this is what you need to do to fix it. These are the issues. So let's problem solve how I can make those changes for myself to learn from the process. So that's how she does, uses it as part of the writing process. For herself, individually as a teacher, she really relates it to the kids that are successful most of the time. They can use Turnitin, get that feedback, and be able to fix issues on their own, which really allows for the opportunity to work with kids who are struggling and spend a little bit more one-on-one time, because the kids that are mostly successful can use this tool on their own, and then she's able to work with the kiddos that struggle. So for her, it's been extremely helpful to be able to give that more one-on-one attention to kids who need it. I know this is really hard to see, but these were 2 screenshots she sent. So the first one is what's called the similarity report. As John mentioned, the program will compare it to other work submitted by Grants Pass High School students, but it also compares it to the entire internet. So you as a teacher can see, oh, that's really similar to another kiddo's work. What's going on here? Or, you've been using this website too often. We need to look at how you can put it in your own words. And then the grammar check below provides suggestions. So it will highlight the stuff that is not done correctly or could be better. And it will provide suggestions for them, but not specifically say, here's how you fix it. So they have to go in and learn how to do things grammatically correct in order to improve their writing. Currently with this program, we really wanted to pilot it with our English teachers specifically, but we did open it up school-wide. So all of our English teachers at Grants Pass High School are using this as part of Canvas. It's built into the process. There is one English teacher at Gladiola that's using it, and then we do have one science teacher that has integrated it, and as kids submit stuff, it is helping them more with their writing. And then that's really hard to see, but submissions over time. So that's just the amount of times, which is why it ebbs and flows, that students have submitted. And Jenny Tyrell, who teaches English 10 and 11, has used it the most as far as kids submitting work and submitting it through the Turnitin process. But I think it's been in the world of the internet. Back in my day, I had to go to the library and look stuff up and then write that in my paper. Whereas it's so easily at kids' fingertips now with the internet. So they really struggled with what's my own voice and what's something that I've read somewhere. So this really helps them navigate through formulating their own ideas versus maybe using somebody else's. Any questions about Turnitin? Yeah, Gary.
So if the student submits their work to turn it in and you said there's a line, does it say okay, or the whole plagiarism, is it safe harbor?
It's all color coded. So for example, if I go back to the top picture, it will color code items within the writing that is similar to other stuff. And so if the kids have a whole bunch of a certain color, they know that this is not in my own words, this is other people's words. And so then they can go back and they can resubmit work and see the colors change so that they know that, okay, now I put it in my own words versus the words of somebody else.
I was just wondering if they could submit it in some kind of way, get safe harbor. I didn't plagiarize when they turned
They
it
can't,
in.
yeah. Mhm.
Because when it winds up with you for plagiarism, that's like, I don't know, some kind of academic dishonesty
Correct.
type.
Yeah.
What are the repercussions for plagiarism in high school?
So we kind of have like a 3 strikes policy, so to speak. The first one, we use as a learning tool, and you redo the assignment for the opportunity for full credit. If you do it again at any point during your high school career, then you do not have the opportunity to make up whatever that assignment is. So my conversation is a lot of, hey, we need to learn from this. Let's make sure you understand why this is plagiarism. Because if it happens again and it's on a big summative project and you have to take a 0, that's a big hit to your grade. If it happens again, the consequences are the same. They don't get the opportunity to redo that assignment or test. But depending on where it falls in their academic career, there may be the potential that they are removed from the class if it's consistent within the same class. If it's spread out over their 4 years, we have a different conversation. But I know I haven't been in this job for very long, but I don't see most kids go past time 1 because they understand that the repercussions become much more severe and impact their grade. And we talk a lot about what happens in the future if you did this in a job, or if you go to college and you do this, you don't necessarily.
So is there a way that Turnitin tells them that they're on the right side of the line so that they don't have to deal with it?
Yeah, so with the different color coding, it not only tells you if it's a source that's taken, but like I talked about with my freshman, cliche phrases. So sometimes it will identify like, hey, that seems like something that everyone says. It's not necessarily plagiarism, it's just trying to get them out of going straight to the cliche and finding their own voice. So it not only lets them know every place that it comes from, it helps them move past it with successive drafts. So it's sort of a preemptive tool to help it so that they don't get to that point of actual plagiarism.
And the goal would be that our teachers are using this throughout the entire writing process. So if they do have a big essay, it's done at the rough draft stage and maybe a revision stage. And so they're getting better as they move through before they actually submit that final draft. So it's part of their educational process, not just you turn in your final draft and hopefully it's okay. They're using it throughout the whole assignment.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
To make it easier for a teacher then to wade through all those essays.
I would say so.
I would say yes, it does make it easier. It also just helps me know sometimes, like, if a student is having a difficult time with an essay, if the entire thing is read because they copied and pasted something, it lets me as a teacher know I need to talk with them a lot sooner. I need to work with them on the writing process. It just gives me more opportunities as a teacher to make sure that I'm reaching the students where they need to be. And so that's one of the reasons I feel this has been so helpful.
Sounds like a great find,
Mhm.
great tool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
4.2 quarter grades, Director Evans.
Hi, I think it was back in August, the board set some goals and measures that they wanted our superintendent to report on. One of those was grades at each of our quarters. So we'll start with middle school. Middle school grades represent the work from August to October 31st was the day that we had clerical day for quarter one. And so this snapshot is that moment in time when quarter grades were finalized and pulled into stored grades for North, South, and GP Flex. The thing to know for quarter two for middle school is students basically start the quarter again fresh. Their grade is finalized, that's what's put in stored grade. And then the student has the opportunity to, especially if they failed the class, we're gonna start over again and see if we can do better in quarter two. So what we did was disaggregated the data by some of our critical subpopulations that we've talked quite a bit about. You know that we are constantly monitoring our students with disabilities and how we can best support their learning. Our second language learners are the yellow group, and then our students experiencing houselessness is our third group. And we talk about those groups in our student investment account activities, in our district improvement planning. So that's why we reported on those subpopulations. We can report on a lot more disaggregated data, but for this presentation today, we just stuck with those three. If you go to the second page and the high school, this is a much different story because high school is not on a quarter grading system. This is a snapshot of that moment on October 31st and where students' grades were at that time. This does not represent stored grades, and it does not represent the students' finalized grade that will happen in January. So teachers are still working with students in all of these subpopulations. Gladiola is different. Gladiola, we do pull stored grades. They are on a quarter system, and so students have those 9 weeks to earn the credit. And Gladiola experienced a lot of success with the amount of credit earned. And then for GP Flex, the high school students there, we don't pull stored grades into Power School, so it's not easy to get at this data because it's in Edgenuity. And it's not super easy to give you the snapshot, but we'll be able to report for high school students for GP Flex with you at the end of quarter two or semester one. I know there's a couple of footnotes that Ryan wanted to comment on regarding the grades at Grand Pass High School. The principals. Well, I wanted you to tell them about the principal honor roll.
So we really tried to incorporate what positive approach could we take to help motivate students to do their best. And so this year we started the principal's honor roll, and that came from some staff development that we've attended and learned about. And so as you see it up there, it's based on 95% or better attendance, 99% to class on time. And students passing all their classes and also having no major behavioral referrals. We had 523 students earn that at the 9-week mark. So on Halloween Monday, we pulled data and 523 students earned that. So we were real proud of them. They can earn prizes. So far, they've been able to we'll make an announcement like on a Wednesday and say, hey, you're on principal's honor roll, you get to leave lunch 3 minutes early today. And so they're allowed to leave lunch early on periodically tonight, each of the last couple of weeks. As Trish already mentioned, that snapshot piece, we can pull this data today. It's dramatically different. We can pull it tomorrow. It will be different again. It literally changes every single day. So we're used to tracking data for our freshmen, especially. You've heard reports before from Rochelle Watson and others on our 9th grade success. And so those teams meet regularly to talk about our subgroups, to talk about our 9th grade successes and what we need to do to better meet student needs. New this year is we started a 10th and 11th grade teams to continue that discussion with our sophomore and junior level teachers. And so it's modeled the same way after our 9th grade teams. And we talk about subgroups, we talk about ways we can better meet the learning needs of our students. All those subgroup categories are of concern to us. We always want to make sure that we're meeting student needs. In fact, that 9th grade EL number, that's a particular concern. John Stillwell looked at that yesterday. As I said, it changes. Instead of 3 EL students, we now have 5 that are freshmen, and only 1 of the 5 is not. 4 of the 5 are passing all of their classes. Only 1 was failing 2 or more. So that data, the point is the data changes pretty significantly. And in that case, we are glad for that. One thing that as we track freshman data over time, one thing that 100% of the time, the data we look at here is worse than it is at the semester. And does that mean future results cannot always be guaranteed based on past performance? But it's because students have deadlines. These students here today that you see in front of you, they're here early getting their assignment done. Kudos to them. But as you'll notice, we have more government students here as the semester progresses and they're trying to finish their assignments. So just a quick note on that. And then today we informed all of our staff where this data was at, and your request to Superintendent Sweeney that we look at this every quarter. We've made a request of our staff to look at the subgroup categories, and when they pull students in for study hall on Thursdays, maybe we target some of our special education sophomores. That might be a good idea because those are kids that might need just a little extra push, pull, help, and assist. So just couple little notes on that, and appreciate your guys' request on this, as it's always good to look at that. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Oh, yeah.
So are we gonna look at this quarterly? Is that what I understand?
Yeah, that's what I was told you requested as a board.
Okay,
So you'll get a report, probably February, that first board meeting in February, we'll get a report.
thank you.
I just have one question about the homeless population of our students. I'm assuming that number does not change as frequently. Is that correct? Based on our definitions, because as I look, we have 7% that are homeless in North Middle School, 6% that are homeless in South, and 5% at the high school, and 18% at Fabiola. Are those numbers pretty consistent throughout the year, or is this a number that also fluctuates?
I would say yes.
I would say it
But-
fluctuates. Students can be identified.
We're going through an audit right now
Going
to
through-
actually look at. Because students are supposed to requalify, and so.
Yes.
So how do
We're
we,
cleaning up some data
So
right
in-
now.
in
I know that I remember seeing the definition. How do we have the students identified?
So in the registration process, the people who are registering the students have to fill out a nighttime residence question. And that flags them in the system, and then we have follow-up with our Maslow support staff. To go through a process to make sure it fits the definitions, and then we flag them in the system, in our student information system. And then we know who they are and how we can support them. And that's every year they have to re-qualify.
And so we're only checking this on an annual basis, or are we checking this?
Oh,
quarterly?
anytime a student comes in that says something happened, they go through the process. So that's why the number changes. They qualify for the whole year, no matter when in the year they're identified. They have to re-qualify the next year.
That's what I'm trying to understand. How often do we go back and check this number? So if a student comes in and says but we do it on an annual basis. Is that
Yeah,
just what their
That's what
registration?
the,
Okay.
Anybody else? All right, Kristen, the holiday card contest winners.
Good evening. So for the 3rd year, we brought our holiday card contest back. It started back in 2020.
during the pandemic, and we had great success with student artists submitting artwork that we kept it. So one of the silver linings of the pandemic is we have this fun contest that we have brought back now for the third year. Special thanks to Tanya for helping facilitate this while I was on maternity leave, because this process started back in October. So appreciate her helping out with that. So we just want to take a moment to recognize our student artists who won. Many of them had holiday concerts tonight, so they couldn't be here. So I know a few families will be watching the Zoom recording after the fact. We had 5 winners this year. Again, we did the grade level winners as well as some People's Choice and opened it up to public voting. And so our K1 winner was Juan B at Parkside. That was a district level winner for the K1 category. Our 2nd through 3rd grade winner was Brielle B, also at Parkside. Oops. Our 4-5 winner was Cooper H over at Allendale. And our 6th through 8th grade winner was Delana at South Middle School. And for our People's Choice winners this year was Emma C, a 5th grader at Parkside. And Delana R won in 2 categories. She was also the People's Choice winner for secondary. And so we were able to go deliver some prints of the cards. Their families could send those out of their artwork, and then they'll be getting an art supply kit to continue their hobby or their activity, as well as a certificate just recognizing their artwork. So we just want to give them a round of applause for their hard work. Any questions on holiday card contest? Nice light topic.
Moving on to 5.0 superintendent report.
Got a few things I wanted to mention to the board tonight. Our elementary schools have been doing their holiday meals for families of our students. They've all had really strong attendance. Riverside had over 250 family members come to lunch last week, right?
Yes.
Parkside, you guys had close to 250. So I know tomorrow it's Lincoln and Highland. I think I'm at Highland tomorrow, so helping out over there. But it's just a great opportunity for families to come back into the school setting and have a meal with their children, and it's been a lot of fun for everybody. Speaking of elementary schools, we have some illness going through our schools right now. We've got some pretty high absentee rates for students. We're keeping a close eye on that situation at this time. Right now, we have staff to run the buildings, and so that's really been our measurement, is if we have enough staff to keep the buildings open. We know for our students that need that stability of meals and being in routine and things like that, keeping schools open is critical for them as long as we can. So, but we are seeing some pretty alarming numbers of absentee rates. So at our elementary schools in particular, I don't know, has it hit the middle schools as much? Starting to? Okay, all right.
Coming.
It's coming. What's that?
We struggled last week, we're better this week.
Okay, all right. So I think Parkside's the big winner currently, about 30% student absentee rate. So. Final thing, on a happier note, I've been to multiple holiday concerts this December. I've been to the 5th grade concert, and the principals were awesome doing their routine of Go Tell Aunt Rhody and Hot Cross Buns and all those fun songs that the students play. I've been to both North and South middle school concerts, and those were fantastic. And tonight at 7, we have the high school concerts going on. So hopefully after this meeting, you can make it over. If you can't make it tonight, there's another show performance tomorrow at 4 and another one tomorrow night at 7. So lots of opportunities to see the high school performers, and that's always choir, orchestra, and band, right? And I was, it's good to be the boss. I got to pick a song from each group, so that they're going to perform, and I'm pretty happy with I'm sure I'm gonna be delighted with the outcome, because all of the concerts have been a lot of fun and the students have done an outstanding job. Otherwise, we're just kind of, getting ready for the winter break, and hopefully we are back from winter break healthier than we are going into winter break. So, right, fingers crossed. Anything else that I can answer for the board? Any questions?
So I did have a question on the Christmas cards. So how do students learn about it?
So we send out a transfer notification district-wide, and then some of the schools do some follow-up. I know every school handles it differently. Some, I believe, did it as an entire classroom activity, because we had some art that was similar. So I think they were all working off of a similar design. So it kind of varies by school, but it does go out district-wide through our communication tool, ParentsWare.
All right, thank you.
Right. Is it?
Just
Any
checking.
questions, superintendent report? All right. Okay, so board reports and special concerns.
So I was in my car and went to every elementary school to see the holiday lights. Every school did an outstanding job. I must say it was kind of a Grinchy Christmas. I think every school had a Grinch there. But Redwood, took the prize because they printed out the book and notes all along the automobile route. And so you could read the whole story. So that was amazing, I thought. And Allendale, I've never seen so many generators in one piece of property. But, and I especially liked how it looked like different classrooms had been assigned different trees to decorate. And so that was fun to see the different handmade decorations too. But everybody did a great job, and it was well attended. It looked like at every school. And the Wilkins actually gave me a piece of candy, so I felt well rewarded. And then back to Christmas cards. I want to thank the district. Kristen. Vanessa found some extra cards from a couple years ago and said, what are we going to do with these? And Tim said, well, maybe Debbie's Rotary can do something. And our Rotary does make out cards for senior citizens in retirement homes. And so we use those the District 7 cards to in that project. So I'm very grateful for that. And I was also at Parkside this morning when my Rotary Club delivered backpacks to some of the kindergarten students for the staff to deliver to kiddos over the Christmas break. And I know that Forks also had some sacks of food to be delivered to Three Rivers and District 7 kiddos also. So lots of good things going on in the community.
Right.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, I know several months ago we had talked about the gender neutral bathroom project, and I was just kind of wondering where we're at on that.
We have drawings from ZCS, am I saying that right? CCS we shared today with the principals of each of the buildings to kind of give them a opportunity to look at it and make comments about it. I think we're going to be ready to roll those out to the facility committee. End of January is when that meeting is, so you can take a look at those. We're making sure we don't need to make any last minute tweaks to accommodate each of the different buildings. Ryan, did you get to see yours? Because you weren't in the meeting today when we looked at this.
I came in at the tail end.
You guys see
Got to
that?
see most of it all.
Okay,
Follow up.
so we're waiting right now for the principals to give us feedback, but yes, those are moving forward, and our intent is to have them being built this summer and ready for operations in September.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
All right. So action items 7.0, we have policies. I think that I want to take them individually. I don't want to take them as a whole. And their second and final reading of amended policies. We'll start with 7.1.1. You want to do one? Yeah,
Fine with me.
okay.
Member
Alright.
De La Grange moves to approve 7.1.1 through 7.1.7.
Brownell second.
All right, is there any discussion? All right. Having noticed, you're hearing no discussion. Let's do, you want a roll call vote time? Roll call vote?
Member Nelson,
Yes.
member De La Grange,
Yes.
member Aguilera,
Yes.
member Richardson,
Yes.
member Brownell,
Yes.
member Coleman. Member Coleman,
We're voting on these seven,
Yes.
member Wilkins.
Yes. All right.
Chair Wilkins. So what I did want to make a comment related to
It's too late,
the.
Carrie. We're moving on, moving on. 3.0.
Perfect. I think it's loss of coverage. No, this is the one that Kelly sent me the,
Information on yesterday, yes.
which policy is that?
We removed it.
EH, yeah, loss coverage.
So my only concern there is that, or my comment relates to the fact that we have something like more than $1 million that isn't even district funds that flows through various places. And that we need to have really good, whatever they call them, accounting controls. So that we don't ever have an incident of embezzlement or fraud, that kind of stuff, so. That's why it was kind of interesting to me that for higher levels of protection, the insurance company would actually want to see those procedures that help prevent that. And so I'm a little curious as to if we're doing stuff like that anyway. I mean,
So
it would
we-
just be a good thing to do.
Oh, most definitely, and checks and balances are really important, especially the large revenue organization. We are going through our audit right now. We should be hopefully done by Christmas is what we're hoping. And part of the audit is looking at our processes and procedures to prevent things like fraud and mishandling of funds, and making sure that, for instance, the person that puts in a requisition is not also the person that approves it, and not also the person that receives the check to pay for it. So there are a lot of checks and balances currently in place, and we're continuously looking at it and improving our processes to make sure that they align with regulations and decreasing that risk as much as possible.
Thank you.
Parents have students. Voting where the money goes.
Yeah, we just implemented a process where student accounts, so Fund 280, so any money that is being raised by students is also being approved, all purchases and expenditures for that club that is student raised money does have a student representative that approves those expenditures. So that was like a new piece, a new process that we did have to implement. That is guidelines and help with that checks and balances.
Thanks. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Now 8.0, future meeting dates. Which are?
Here.
We have board meeting January 10th at 5 p.m. Policy Advisory Committee, January 24th at 5. Facilities Advisory Committee, it's January 30th at 9 a.m. And we are going to adjourn.
Into executive session.
You can do executive session.
We'll reset. We're reset. I'd like to reconvene the general session. And adjourn the general session.
You just like to tap to death.
I have to tap it louder.
He's like Columbo over there. One more thing.